fully gorgeous girls.
You
The girls
are.
are still there being fabulous. So I hope nobody heard that last sentence, actually.
All the it is you're fabulous, and they know that. So
Yeah. It is what it is. Anyway, thank you. And hello, Natalie. Hello, everybody who's watching, whether you're watching live or whether you are watching on replay. It's Ree Pearson in Be Kind, No Excuses. Welcome to our live broadcast. Thank you for coming. And I completely forgot what I was talking about because just before we came online, we were talking about my boobs. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. I would like to give a very warm welcome to Natalie this evening, who's joining us from where from?
I'm up in Lancashire, up near Clitheroe.
Oh, you mean
you
were across from me in Lancashire. I was very nearly in Lancashire at the weekend, but then I turned right and came home instead. So I was in Shropshire. I was in Shropshire, and then I went that way instead of that way. So yeah. So Natalie's joined us this evening from Lancashire, and Natalie, I'm just going to let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'll attempt to do a good job. It always stumps me, like I don't know who I am when people say that to me.
I know it's weird.
So I'm Natalie, and I work as a body image coach, which sometimes people are a bit like, what on earth is that? So basically, I'm a life coach. I focus on body image. So I focus on how we see ourselves. So like what we think of ourselves, what we feel about our bodies, and then kind of like how we behave as a result of that. So sometimes people come and talk to me and they're like, oh, right, so, so you're a PT. And I'm like, no. And they're like, all right, so do you do diets? And I'm like, no. More about, we were talking before, weren't we? And for me, my kind of motto is very much like, I'm not here to say whether anyone does or doesn't need to lose weight. I'm more about, if you do, why do you want to? So like the things that you've been talking about this week, like with self-esteem and self-worth, my big mission is to help women not to value themselves basically just on how they look, which as women, particularly in this modern society, we think and we are taught to believe we have to look this way, our body should look like this, otherwise we're not worthy, we shouldn't be confident, and we're not lovable. And what happens is we yo-yo diet, we over-exercise, we criticize ourselves, and we end up absolutely miserable. Yeah. So I'm here to kind of big women up outside of how they look, to kind of just create a life that they feel more confident in.
Yeah. And so it would be lovely if people who are watching or people who are watching on replay, if you could ask Natalie questions and comment on what we're talking about tonight, because the Be Kind, No Excuses book is very much about how self-esteem, self-confidence and self-love affects how we interact in the world. And it's about helping teenagers. I mean, if I could put my current self-confidence level into my whiz back in time 14-year-old self, a lot of the things that happened to me wouldn't have happened to me, I don't think. I don't want to go back in time. I don't want to change anything. But what I do want to do is bring a happy future to people by helping raise their self-esteem. And that's a massive part of what you do, isn't it?
Yeah, and God, what an amazing thing to do as well, isn't it? And as you say, I think it's not necessarily like through life experience that we deserve anything that happened to us, but we sometimes, if we have really low self-esteem and we have this low opinion of ourselves, it's easy for us to get manipulated. It's easy for us to if we're seeking kind of validation and acceptance from people, we can seek it in the wrong places. We always say that the wrong people spot vulnerability everywhere, and they feed off it, don't they? And we can actually in turn ends up making us feel worse. So say with relationships, which I know obviously you guys have talked about relationships, like obviously if we have quite low self-esteem and we get into a negative relationship, maybe with someone who says all the right things as they do, particularly with like emotional manipulation, emotional abuse, they're saying the right things, they're making us feel good, and then it's just slowly pecking away at us, isn't it? And what happens then is, hopefully if that harmful relationship finishes, we come out of that feeling even worse about ourselves. And then, the cycle repeats itself, doesn't it? So it is so important, particularly for younger girls, to just really have that awareness of themselves and to find their worth and find their value and their happiness, as corny as it sounds, just from the inside. Because when we're looking for external things all the time, whether that is being in a relationship or being a certain weight, whatever it is, if it's external, then we're so vulnerable. We are so vulnerable because relationships change, we get in bad relationships. I think as we all know, as we get older, our body definitely changes. So if we need, if we have to have these things to feel good and have self-esteem, we're forever chasing. And that's all we're chasing, or we're trying to maintain, aren't we? And both of them are massively exhausting.
Yeah.
From my experience.
Yeah. So how do you go about helping women with what you do?
Yeah, for me, I mean, there's so many things. I think, like with body image, I think it's massively entangled to like our self-image, our self-esteem. So obviously, if we've got like an unhealthy body image, it's very much about feeling quite self-conscious. It's very much about feeling uncomfortable, feeling not good enough. And I think for me, they kind of go hand in hand. So like our self-image is obviously how we value ourselves as a whole person.
Mm-hmm.
And then our bodies just focus literally on our bodies. And I think you can't have one without the other. So I always start off with ladies basically having a look at like, look, what is everything that's going on? Because it's not having a negative body image. It's not generally about our bodies, really. It's about everything else that's going on. And that might be our thinking. It might be our boundaries, our environment, our self-care. There's so many different things. So the first thing I'll always do to people, because I don't think one size fits all. We're all very different. We've had different experiences, different lives. And although there might be similarities, how that shows up is going to be really different. So I have like a little exercise that I'll always do with people, which is kind of having a look at the present you. So how like checking in with kind of how you feel at the minute, who's in your life at the minute, what habits have you got, and kind of just getting that all down and just brainstorming it all, I find really helpful. And then basically having a look at like the future version of you. So that version of you who you aspire to want to be, that best version of you, however you want to label it, the self-confident version of you, what does she get up to? You know what I mean? If you were to picture her or think of someone who you think, I want to be more like her, like she's so confident, she's got such great self-esteem, like what traits does that person have? So what are they doing? How do they spend their time? How do they talk to themselves? Like, what are they doing? Brainstorm all that. And then we have these like two contrasting, sometimes very wildly contrasting people.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's about slowly but surely going, right, how can we move you from here to here? And some of that is belief work. So really working through the strong beliefs that have been generally given to us. And then we've started to repeat, and now they're a problem. Kind of working through that. Sometimes it's little things like creating morning routines. Sometimes it's setting boundaries and basically just slowly making that. But I think the biggest shift for me, and that I find a lot of people I work in, is just getting up the belief to know that you can. Because I think sometimes we're stuck for so long, and we get to a point where we know we're not happy, and we know that it's it's not just about maybe what we think it is. Like, it's not just about our bodies, or it's not just about this relationship. There's a lot of things going on, but I think it can be quite overwhelming, can it?
Yeah.
To kind of think, where do I even start? So I think, it's so important to just really, really break it down and just focus on, for me, first thing is our environment. Like something we can change, not always quickly and not always necessarily that easily, depending on where we are. So if we're in quite a toxic, unhealthy relationship, it's not always going to be that easy to just change that up. But we can make little changes to that, because I think if we try and work on lots of the internal stuff, but our environment is really, really toxic, I think we struggle. I think we struggle a lot. So I think the first thing I always say to people is to to make sure you're starting to surround yourself with people who make you believe in yourself and make you believe that you can do things. Because, you know, a lot of the time, if we feel like this about ourselves and we feel bad about ourselves, generally, if we have a look around us, we can see why.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely. That's absolutely true, isn't it?
yeah.
But then so many people get into toxic relationships because of their lack of self-esteem. I just don't think that it's easy for somebody to abuse you if you love yourself properly. Like last week was International Women's Day, and we did the online summit on the Instagram page, on the Be Kind White Species Instagram page, and that was amazing. We had 20 women speaking during the day, and I think just about every single one of them, what the conclusion was is, if you love yourself enough, you're enough.
Yeah.
And no matter who comes along, if you respect and love yourself enough, you will not tolerate. So right from the beginning of meeting that person, you will not tolerate any of those crossing of those boundaries that undermines your self-esteem, because that's what they do. They chip away at your self-esteem. But if you're already in a position of love, that is almost impossible for somebody to come along and do that to you.
And the thing is, which is why it's fantastic that you're here, is that that's not taught in schools. We get taught math, we get taught all these things, we get taught sex, you know, but we don't get taught how to respect yourself or how to set boundaries with people, or what self-love actually even is. I mean, I know grown adults, you know, I probably find my mum, she'd be like, she'd mention bubble baths, she'd mention things, but people don't really understand what it is. And it's so, I talk a lot about self-compassion and self-criticism and how like there's a complete polar opposites of each other. But sometimes we can have really negative beliefs about self-compassion and self-love, like it's selfish, it's arrogant, it's, you know, oh, if you love yourself, you're so full of yourself. And I can't remember who it was. I was listening to a podcast and he was saying that he'd been to some workshop somewhere, and he remembered the guy was doing some presentation about something, and a woman spoke up and she's like, do you know what, you probably love yourself, don't you? Like, she's obviously just trying to troll him and just being, you know, like some people are. And he was like, I won't swear because I'm on the phone. He's like, of course I effing do. Who else am I supposed to love? And she said she was so dumbfounded because it's like, of course, if I don't love me, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
And I think we don't get taught that. And I think if we grow up in families who then don't have it as well, then you know, we don't know what we don't know. You know, it's like
Absolutely.
math. How can I expect to know math if no one's ever taught me how to do it? And we slag ourselves off for not knowing how to do something we've never been shown how to do, and then we get shown the wrong way.
Yeah. And then we're with somebody who's, because of our vulnerability, because we have low self-esteem, we end up with somebody who's going to even whittle it away even further until you're just a shell of who you're meant to be. And that's just such a terrible cycle. And it's actually common.
It's scary, isn't it? I think
it's horrendous. It's horrendous. I have this attitude where I think, right, so I'm married again, okay? I just think, how do I expect somebody to love me if I don't take care of myself for that person? Like, why would somebody love me if I think I'm no good? Why would they love me if my very self doesn't?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's funny. I was having a really interesting conversation, and I can say with my sister because she's not in this group, so she won't know. And she's recently got out of a relationship, and it wasn't a domestic violence relationship. But I was having a conversation with her tonight, and it was really, really interesting because it pulls off what you've just said. And basically, she was saying, I don't know what's happened. Like, I was feeling really good about it, and it's fine. And then he didn't reply to a couple of messages quick enough. So now she went down this whole storyline like we do, that he's always been having an affair. He's obviously been having an affair, and he's obviously already seen someone else, and she'd gone off. So we reined her back in. And she said, with her previous boyfriend before that, she said, I was always trying to, I didn't think I was good enough for him. So I was always trying to be better, and it made me a better person. And then she said, but in this relationship, I thought I was better than him. And therefore, because he worshipped me as I was, I didn't try. So, but then eventually, because I wasn't trying, I let myself go and became a worse version of myself. And then he didn't worship me anymore. And I was like, right, so what is going on here? Because in both of them, you're showing up a relationship, making an effort or not making an effort based on how you think, like, your worth in that relationship.
Yeah.
And after we've been having a conversation, she was like, well, yeah. So we pulled it back and she's like, so I haven't resolved my self-worth issues, have I? I was like, no, I don't think you have. And we also came out of the fact that she's obviously just lonely, because she said, I'm not going to get into another relationship. And I think often we can, we get into, particularly with relationships, to try and fix ourselves. So if we already feel low, what can happen is we either go for like what we think is the opposite person, or there's someone who's going to meet that need or fill that hole. And what happens is that it doesn't. Yeah. And therefore, we think there's something wrong with us. And I think it's so difficult to see that, like, often we need other people around us, whether they have experienced the same things or had knowledge. I mean, I think it's always better if we have like that experience, but to just be able to just shine a light a little bit and kind of say, like you do with your young girls and inside this group, to just kind of say, look, it's okay to voice, it's okay to share how you feel, and to know that that's okay to do.
Yeah.
And to acknowledge to yourself that actually I think I haven't resolved all of my issues.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we put on a show, don't we? We put on a show that things are better than they are, that we're not that unhappy, because we have
the
a
pressure.
lot of, the
pressure, social media, the pressure of social media to appear that you've got your shit together is massive.
Yeah.
I am so glad that when I was a 15-year-old girl, there was no social media.
No, there wasn't when I was. There wasn't
because
when I was.
The pressure of being, the pressure of looking good when I went to school. My sister is, one of my sisters, a bit older than me, and she would put my hair in curls and I would have my makeup on to go to school. So I was up really early in the morning to do my frigging hair so that I looked okay to go to school. Do you know what I mean? I was 15, and it's like, can you imagine the pressure of that on the scale that girls and boys get that now? Like, it's insane.
Yeah, it's frightening, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is frightening.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the negative side of things. I'm going to talk about the positive side of things and the amazing work that you do with people. So can you please tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes. You can find me lurking in my groups, which is body image and self-worth for women. So it's just for women, it's women only. So it's a safer place, because I think particularly with like self-esteem and body image, we don't always want to air things in front of males. So it's just for women.
That's
the group. But I do have, and I'm going to give you the download for it actually, Vee, and then you could share it as a file if you want. Then people don't have to do the whole sign up thing. Just a little self-esteem like prompts. It's like a 7-day self-esteem prompt thing. So it's like 2 or 3 questions, I think, each day, to just get you kind of tuning into, what's gone well, what have I done well, what's made me happy today. And it's just a nice thing to do over a week, just to start to switch that perspective and that vision we have onto the positive things about us, rather than the things that we don't necessarily like as much. So I'll send you it as a file, and then you'll be able to share it in the group.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. And please, when we come off here, can you put the link to your group in the comments so people can come and have a look in your group? That's amazing. Again, talking about self-esteem, ladies and gentlemen, tonight, massively important to counterbalance the abuse that people encounter when they're vulnerable. And we're all vulnerable at some point.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter who we are, what we do. We'll all have those moments of vulnerability as we go through life.
Yeah.
So we're all susceptible. But Natalie, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I appreciate how busy you are, and I know you're going to dash off to talk to your gang. Thank you so much. Ladies, please put comments in. We can answer them later. But thank you so much for joining us this evening. And we will see you next week, hopefully.